Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. Each week, host Brian O'Rourke brings you an interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse for what matters most for your business in the age of exponential technologies.
Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. I'm your host, Brian O'Rourke. And, what's the great thing about being able to share this podcast with listeners from around the world are the guests we have. Of course, the topics that we discuss are fun, too. I hope you think so. But for our audience today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Kelly Card. I've known Kelly for a number of years. She presently serves as Senior Vice President of Partner Relations at ABC Financial, and she's responsible for technology and service partnerships that enrich the club and user experience through integration and advancement of the evolution of the fitness industry's best practices. Kelly's been around the frontier of fitness and technology for about 20 years. She was a founder of Club App, so had a very successful run as an entrepreneur. It was the first mobile app company for health clubs, and it served as VP of Sales and Marketing for ABC Financial as well. She is on the board of directors and a member of the Fitness Industry Technology Council. Thank you so much, Kelly, and a very smart lady who has a lot of practical experience. So we welcome you, Kelly. Thank you for making time on this Friday morning.
Well, thank you, Brian. I'm happy to be here with you this morning.
Well, it's great. You're up in the Northwest. Are you in the Portland area this morning?
I'm in the Portland market this morning, but only for a brief time, and I'll be back out on the road.
Of course. What's new, right?
Exactly.
Road warrior. So what's great about this is, and the listeners, they don't know this, but it's fun because you and I get to visit quite often about a lot of things that are going on in the industry space. And when we chatted about talking about a subject, right, we talked about data. And, today, as we get into data, I think what you and I spend a lot of time on, which I really enjoy, is this kind of gap or opportunity that relates to all these words and terms you hear, like data and AI and all these things, kind of the theoretical side of what's happening out there and can happen. And then there's the practical hands in the dirt practitioner side of running clubs and the real world of operations, and the opportunity of bringing those things together to really help people with tangible business results is, from that kind of marriage of the theory and the practical. So let's examine data from that perspective. Tell us from your perspective, what does data in general mean to the industry and why, in your view?
Mm-hmm. Well, when I look at data and I look at how data is coming into the fitness industry, it has many operators frozen in fear as this wave of technology is coming at them, coming at us. And what we need to do is collectively work together to define how we can utilize these tools, because what's amazing about the data integration, and then of course the data-driven AI tools that emerge from that, is that it's giving us an opportunity to really define or redefine our business model from the ground up. Because what that data allows is for us to get closer to the member and really design these hyper-personalized experiences that deliver just incredibly relevant customer engagement in real time. And I think that that's critical to bring to the fitness industry, because it is applicable when we shop online. It's applicable when we pick up a burrito at Chipotle. It's everywhere we go. And it has to be in our health clubs and fitness studios as well.
Yes, you're right. Because, in the age of the customer, it's all about the customer, right? It's not about it's about them, not us, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
So let's be as tangible as possible as we can, even more so. You spend a lot of time, and I know you have great relationships with a number of very successful operators in the health club space. And so practically speaking, in this era of the customer where you're seeing data starting to be applied, what are you seeing operators kind of get about this? What are some missing about this? Can we talk about some, even more kind of granularity around what you're describing?
What operators are getting with this is, this is an incredible opportunity to really utilize data for the first time. And I think where I'm engaging operators most heavily is in how do we use the data? How do we visualize the data in a way that makes it actionable more quickly? So whether that's from a marketing experience, whether that's from how you're greeting members at the front desk, or really even how members are exiting the system, because that has to be a fluid and powerful, strong experience for that consumer the whole way through the process.
And what are the challenges that people are having, or what are they missing about it? Is it, what do you see as the gap or opportunity there?
Well, I think that one of the things that we have to do is look for technology solutions that provide a comprehensive and cohesive experience. And that ties back into the need for integration, because what you don't want to have is a choppy member experience where you're utilizing 12 different technologies that don't talk to each other. So integration today isn't just nice to have, it's a hard requirement. So, we want to provide this cohesive brand experience for the member to have with your club, not for it to have with all your different technology providers. So I think number one is the number one takeaway for club operators around technology is, put the ownership of that experience into the hand of your technology providers as well, because they're going to help you drive that integrated experience. And, by integrating with these other technologies to make that experience even more relevant for your members.
Yes. And so you were kind enough to come on early Saturday morning at IHRSA in San Diego to see me chat. Thank you for doing that, by the way. It was very early on a Saturday morning.
Of course.
And we got it. Yeah. And we got into some details about this. And for the listeners, if you simply Google Brian O'Rourke, IHRSA 2018 presentation, you'll find the deck on SlideShare. And if you go to, I think, slides, 60s and 70s, you're going to see 5 examples of some of the things that you, Kelly, are describing with experience architecture. And let's talk about some of those. I know that they were PEFSO, personalization, ease of buying, the facilitation and handoff of a buying across various platforms, being strategic about content, moving to mobile only, video, and then omni-channel. Those are the things we kind of talked about in general. So you mentioned personalization. Can you opine a little bit about what you're seeing in the marketplace around these kind of 5 elements of a new area or new era of kind of designing experience for the user?
Sure. And I think when we look at what it means to get personal in fitness, it means that, through technology, we want to have very highly targeted messaging to the members and to our prospects. And we want to build loyalty and rewards programs around that. So, when I think about the application of that, and I look at what club operators are doing to get personal and move into that space, certainly the things that you need to consider that the data opens up are the data triggers many simple and many complex things. So data, for example, is what triggers an alert at check-in if it's a member's birthday or if a member is past due. That's a data-driven trigger. But what we have to do is we have to go beyond that, and we have to look at how do we enrich the experience, because while that may be a good tool, it's not necessarily enriching that member's experience. So, what the data does to to really drive that loyalty to the brand is when the clubs can begin to offer things like loyalty programs where members are rewarded for various activities, things like check-ins, spending behavior, when they participate in classes or in personal training. So that data is recorded in your member management system, and then by being integrated with loyalty programs like Perkville, you have the ability to automatically, as a member, earn these rewards that you can then redeem for different incentives that the club offers.
Mm-hmm. That's a great example.
So,
tell me with your background with Club Apps and the work that you did, and the work that you're doing now, can you talk about the ease of frictionless buying, the whole idea of how memberships or different services were procured in the past, and what best practices moving forward today on around that area?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The trick with frictionless buying is going to be a moving target for quite some time, and I think that that's a space that we all know that we need to be playing heavily in. And what we want to do around that, if we break that down, we want to meet the consumer when they're inspired to actually make a decision to purchase and make it as frictionless as possible. Obviously, a lot of times that's not going to be in facility. That may be online, that may be in mobile. So, the technology application of that is continually evolving, continually getting better, making it fewer clicks, making it more intuitive. And you need to be looking for that experience really in every technology that you provide. The technologies that you're utilizing, to face that experience need to integrate heavily with your member management system. If you're using your member management system for those things, that needs to be, very fluid and trackable so that you know what's working and what's not working. All of those data points are available to club operators. It's just a matter of putting them to use. And it also really allows you to create that experience that's unique to your own brand.
Very true. And you alluded to the frictionless aspect of things and mentioning what we termed omni-channel, that interaction outside and inside the club. Are you seeing more of that being part of the ethos of the brand you're working with now?
Absolutely. Many of the top brands have perfected this, this in-store experience where, from the time that you come in to the time you leave, you can count on a consistent experience, and certainly that's what we would all strive for. But we also see the influx of addressing the other part of that, which is the digital experience that the member and prospect has. So, when we look at that area specifically and how we're meeting the consumer demand, we're deploying things like when a member or a prospect reaches out to us on Facebook, we have the ability to deploy bots that actually respond in real time to those types of questions. Data-driven bots that know the answers to the questions that your members are asking. That's relevant and real. Or, intelligent routing that if it doesn't know the answer, then it may say, it may go into a queue where it has a live responder. So, we definitely see the data being used in smart ways to make a more real-time connected member experience.
Exactly. And that, we talked about that in the presentation at URSA, and you have shared thinking on this with me for several years. And that's where, we're going to get into this theme of integration that you brought up, which is so critical today. But that's where we really see, having true enterprise platforms with all these components that are integrated well, the collection of appropriate data, And then the ability to do what you're describing, automation, to provide high degrees of customized, personalized service immediately in real time. And these tools are all there today. It's not fiction anymore, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're here. They're in mass. And I believe that we all acknowledge that they're here. There are so many, and there are so many overlapping applications that it's really sorting through which ones to utilize so that we're not over investing in technology. So
Yes.
one of the things that I recommend, to begin that process, yes, we want to use technology thoughtfully in every aspect of our business, but the key is using it thoughtfully, not excessively. So how do we cull the technology that we're using as much as we expand upon it? So one of the areas that I recommend is starting off with that integration component, making sure that you're using technology that is accessible to integrate. It has the ability to talk to other platforms, and whether or not you utilize that today, I can guarantee you will be utilizing it in the future, and that the technologies that you'll deploy will be utilizing that in the future. So you want to make sure that whether it is member billing data, member check-in data, activity from cardio equipment, all of that data should be relevant, or is relevant to you, should be relevant to your buying decision with any technology provider. So, today you want to be able to have access to data. So your member management system, your rewards programs, your texting platforms, your CRMs, those need to be integrated and speaking to each other.
Yep.
If they're not, the answer is no.
Yes, exactly.
We have to demand a more connected, cohesive member experience. The way that we do that is by making sure those tools and those platforms are talking to each other. And if they're not, then they're not even a consideration.
That's right. Because, and this is so important in growing the fitness sector through innovation, where the book we released a year ago in Europe, I wrote that the future of business lies in experience architecture, and you're the architect. And I think what you're describing is when you're the architect, there are certain things that are just, you can't proceed forward without it. It would be like trying to build a roof on a house without walls. It just won't happen. There's certain fundamentals, and I agree with you that if your technologies are not set up around thoughtful integration, you won't be able to execute the experiences that you need to deliver to your member.
Absolutely. It really is that simple. It's not a broad talking point. It is, it's incredibly defined. You either integrate or it's a no-go.
And this is so critical in the age of the customer, because without those things, you can't do the stuff you're describing. You just won't be as competitive as capable competitively without it. So in kind of closing up this, Kelly, and I know you and I could spend many hours chatting about this, and I love talking with you about it. Tell me, in your view, and it isn't easy to do this, but what are the top 2, 3, or 4 things that you think must be a priority for most operators today when it comes to this? How, we talked about a couple of these things, but how would you prioritize this in your mind, if you understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. What would you tell people?
If we're looking for, tactical ideas or tactical takeaways that are going to be relevant today and in the coming months in the fitness industry, I would say, number one, pay attention to the evolution of your member management system around the member experience. If that is not evolving, you have a big decision to make. For example, ABC is releasing its next-gen platform in 2019 that centers around micro moments of that member and user experience. So, be thinking about what that is. Help your member management system define it. And if they're not evolving to it, make a big decision.
Right.
Next, AI, the data-driven artificial intelligence tools that are coming into this space. Things like chatbots, like we talked about, things like predictive analytics. Those tools are in fitness now. They're young, but they will be commonplace in the next 6 to 24 months. And then I would say the advancement of digital wallets and mobile payments is also coming into play. We see the use of Apple Pay and Amazon Pay, starting to come into the fitness space more. And why that's relevant is what you're able to do is when a member is trying to make that easy buying decision, you're able to then use your stored payment method within Apple Pay or Amazon Pay that auto-populates your payment information, your address, your all of your personal information to speed up that process. And what we're seeing is that drives conversion. So, I think that we'll see the evolution of digital wallets and mobile payments come into play more in the next 12 to 36 months.
Yeah, I agree with all that you're saying. And, it harkens back to the early days of Club Apps when you launched it. And I remember you and I kind of joking with each other that, I remember speaking with CEOs in the space of some significant brands 6 years ago and asking what their mobile strategy was, and they didn't know what I was talking about. And I remember us talking about that. Do you think in light of these three priorities you mentioned, is digital strategy or business strategy really, is this something that we're going to see more and more people have to think through for their health clubs and gyms and figuring out, hey, how am I going to compete, and having an absolutely thoughtful plan for this next 36 months put down on paper that they can work toward achieving? Is that a must in your mind?
That is a must. And the reason that it's a must is that, we have to really come to the understanding that the customer is different than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And we have to meet them where they are. We have to, demystify what the consumer is today and create best practices around engagement and understand that it will continue to be a moving target.
Yes, demystify. I love that word. I think that is probably demystify might be on the title of this podcast because I think you're right. I mean, I've told people, I think some people are a little overwhelmed with the idea of what am I going to do about this? And it's
right.
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming, right?
Well, and I think what is starting to happen is that best practices are starting to emerge. We're starting to better identify what it means to meet the modern consumer where they shop, where they are looking to experience your brand. We're starting to get a hold and ride the tidal wave of technology disruption and what it means to the member experience. So those things are starting to happen. And there are certainly leaders and influencers who are emerging in the space that are helping us guide that process. So there's hope. There is definition being put in place that will certainly become available to the masses in very short order. And it's out there now. You just have to dig for it, but it shouldn't be that difficult.
No, but that's why you need people like you to kind of help as a valued partner that has experience and insight as to coming to rational and thoughtful conclusions about what you need to prioritize, what are the rules that you need to really consider, like integration. How are you going to be the architect behind your user experience and making those decisions? Kelly, always inspiring to be on the phone with you. You're a dear friend, and I've noticed, by the way, that the Industry Fit has launched recently. So our listeners can watch out for some cool content that you're starting to share on Insta and other platforms. I know you're on LinkedIn as well, and you've asked that I pin a small article on AI. And I know there's going to be a lot of interesting content you're releasing in the coming months. So I'd recommend our listeners keep an eye out for that, along with what's going on with the Fit Tech Council and all your contributions for there and there. Kelly, any final thoughts for our listeners today that you'd like to share before we go?
I would just say the wave of technology is here. It's not going away. We have to be brave and bold and dive into the technology experience that is coming into the fitness industry. It has an incredible opportunity to drive a more rewarding and enriching member experience. We just have to embrace it and have to be brave enough to ask questions and raise our hand when we don't know the answer. It's okay to continually ask questions of your providers. Demand that they meet the customer experience, because really the control of the member experiences is in the hands of the club operator. Just go into it boldly and demand that the technology works for you.
Great wisdom coming from Kelly. In the era of Google, the quality of questions is more important than the answers. You're so right. So everyone, please, Kelly Card, Senior Vice President of Partner Relations, board member at FITSE, co-founder of Industry Fit, somebody we all need to keep an eye on and listen to. Kelly, thanks for making time out of your Friday for our listeners. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Brian.
Hi, everyone. This is Brian O'Rourke again. Thanks for listening to the podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. The podcast is brought to you by the Fitness Industry Technology Council, as well as my company, Videri Ventures, Moon Mission Media, and others. We hope you enjoyed the content. Please feel free to share it and join us again soon when we bring to you another leader in the fitness space talking about technology and what it means to our industry. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you again very soon.